session on it, and they didn't have.
We are live again.
But they were talking.
So then we started working together.
So welcome back, everybody.
And they were working to try to get some more objective look at, are we getting the kids, and if we are, is that good, how are they doing?
I hope you had good local sessions.
Yeah.
I'd like to introduce Kim Glenn again, and she's going to be talking about building Project Lead the Way program diversity through professionalism.
Thank you, Sally. All right. Well, thank you again for coming back and joining us here. So today I'm going to be speaking about building your Project Lead the Way program diversity through professionalism. And we're busy. We have so many things to do that we're just going to jump right in here and get started. We have a diversity deficit in STEM. So in the engineering and computing fields, which actually makes up 80% of all STEM work that's going on, only 26% of women are in computing, 12% in the engineering field. And if you look at the women in the African American, Hispanic, and Native American, it even gets even more, especially underrepresented. And these are good jobs. All individuals need to be available to give the ingenuity and the innovation and talent that we need. We can't just have half the population. So it's really about trying to pull in more females and underrepresented to really solve the problems that we have. This is, I'm not going to go over all of this. We've seen this data, but there are a couple things here that the reason that we need to talk about this and we need to act is that when you look at the number of STEM workers, 27% women, 13% minorities, we are really missing out here. We're having all of that we're all losing. The bachelor's degrees earned by women in STEM, 17.9%, minority population 18.3%. We need to do something about this. This is another example just showing, this is from the AAUW, American Professional Women. This shows the engineering workforce in the one pie chart, the computing workforce, and you can see the disparity. And the fact of the matter is we just need more diverse teams for a better end product, no matter what that end product may consist of. So there's a number of resources online, there's books, there's articles, there's all kinds of studies out there right now on how to engage girls in STEM, how to get their attention, keep their attention, and get them to take that on up into secondary ed. This is an example, SciGirls 7, and it's a wonderful condensed sort of a list of strategies. And I'm not going to go particularly through each one. I wanted it up here because these are fantastic, and these are things that not only are helping young ladies get interested in STEM, but all of these things can be applied to anyone in your classrooms, anyone in your school. So it's really about putting these strategies in place. But I'm going to take a little bit of a turn from let's not talk so much about a list of things that we do, but more the overall professionalism of your teachers, of your program, of your building, of the classroom spaces, and how all of that contributes to what your classrooms look like. We want your hallways of your school, whatever that makeup is, we want your Project Lead the Way classrooms to look like that. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to talk about professionalism. So the skill, good judgment, and polite behavior that's expected from a person who is trained to do a job well. And you can see in this cartoon here a little example of non-professionalism. And unless you're going to be a clown professionally, being unprofessional probably isn't going to get you the job. So we need to do something about that. Today we're going to cover some email communications. We're going to cover school website content, school building content, the value of that elevator speech, and I'm going to give you some things to consider about your building and what goes on there. So we're going to jump into email communication, and you're wondering, well, how does this affect me and getting a diverse population? It's all combined. It's what you're doing as a whole to attract folks. And so when you are communicating with your parents, when you're communicating with business and industry, there are certain things that you're going to want to have in there to show that you are the professional and you are someone that they want to work with. So these are some email examples that I've received over the years, and simply, hi, what's the word? And literally last name only. Well, I'm not sure who that is. I don't know what word he's talking about or she's talking about. And that provides an opportunity. It makes me then have to go and do some extra emailing to find that out or do some research. So it's basically a time waster. Another email example. Will I be presenting at the conference? John and Joyce have asked me, but I don't know. Thanks. Well, I don't know who John and Joyce are. I don't know what I'm asked to, there's lots of conferences that we're involved in. So again, I'm going to have to reach back out and do some research to figure out even what this person's talking about so that I can help them. And it's, carefully considering that signature line, having one for sure. And I would even go so far as to say, I know a lot of people in their company emails, they don't have their signature line in like the reply. Once you get started in a chain, I would even say keep that in there, because I know I've looked for phone numbers, and when you quickly do a search in your email and they don't list it there, it's like, oh, and then you have to keep going and try to find that signature line. So, just be conscientious of other people and their time in when you do this. This is an example of an out-of-office reply that really, there wasn't much, I think, thought put into the reply. So Jane Brott will be out of the office. Jane Brott, Director of Curriculum. Okay, Jane's not there. That leaves them no information on who to contact for help. So write this office out of office with efficiency and your customer care in mind. The emojis. We love them. If you look at this person is obviously happy, very excited, wants me to be excited. But again, STEM festivals, there's lots of STEM activities going on. I'm not sure which one. There was no signature line to this. So again, we really want to keep the emojis sort of down in a professional. If this is your friend and this is someone that you know well, use them by all means. But when you're doing professional communications, I would keep the emojis out of your email content. Personal favorite? You've gone back and forth with someone and they just reply, thank you. That's the email back to you. And it sounds wonderful. It's being appreciative of what's going on. But again, it is a time waster. That thank you is known from that last email, I'm sure, that someone has talked with you about. So again, thinking about your customer and not putting, not putting these emails in and putting them in that inbox and just having those pile up. It's just another thing for someone to kind of click through. They're not sure, are you asking another question? So just be conscientious of that. In Iowa, Iowa State actually went through and had a grad student pull up all of our Iowa school websites. And what we were looking for, just a little background, when we do school visits, usually what I had done was I would go to the website and I would look for what they had for Project Lead the Way. Because you want that shows priority, that shows they're proud of what they're doing, they have good partnerships and such. So what the data had found was that, and this particular student was asked just to look, they weren't supposed to dig too deep. They needed to look and see if they could find that they had a Project Lead the Way program. So 23% of that data, they could find nothing about Project Lead the Way. And these are Project Lead the Way schools. 67% there was some information, and only 10% they would consider actually good, which is finding the information, there was quality material, there were links, and etc. So that's something to think about. So what does your website say about Project Lead the Way? Or is it really not saying too much? So consider your site in relation to this data. Even with Google, that does a sort of pre-populous where it raises you to the top as your information is important. So even Google thinks that content quality is important. And knowing that STEM isn't in a box, a lot of individuals don't understand what STEM is. So even on your website talking about STEM in a collaborative form, it's not just science, technology, engineering, math, but it's a combination of those working together and showing the importance of that collaboration. Project Lead the Way is STEM. So absolutely, and STEM is making a difference in the world. So is your website saying those things, or is it saying these things without intending to? So your website could be telling the public that STEM is just for the top performers, depending on where you have this listed, where Project Lead the Way is in your school, that means access for only some. And you could be also putting out there that this is just for the smart kids, the students who love math, the nerds. It's just about making stuff, that STEM is difficult, that it's industrial technology with a little STEM thrown in. So all of these are misnomers that you could be perpetuating on your site and you don't even really know it because you're not making a targeted effort to do otherwise. So what you don't say does speak volumes. So what I am about to show you is just a quick compilation of the school visits that I've done over the years and some of the some learning pieces maybe that we can all kind of take and think about. And as we go through these, some of these are going to be really, and these are all true, different issues, and I just want you to sort of think about your building in relation. Thinking about going in there with a fresh set of eyes in your spaces and seeing how you see things and how the public coming in would see things. So we have a top 10. And these are real examples, and the names have been changed to protect the innocent. So we are going to go through these. These are also in no particular order of, I want to say, horrificness, but they are just a top 10 that we're going to go through the examples. So the Pop Can Pyramid. So it was actually a Mountain Dew. It was all Mountain Dew pyramid that I saw, and it was in the room. And you try to sometimes think about, is there a theme to this classroom this week? Are they doing a special project? It wasn't. That's just where they kept their empties. So in a professional classroom space, there's a huge pile of pop cans that attract bugs. That isn't really good for the kids anyway. I mean, what kind of message are we sending to these young people? Chickens. I know we're in the Midwest, but I don't believe chickens in cages really have a place in our STEM classrooms. And again, keeping in mind that we are considering that this could be a project, could be an experiment, it could be a number of things. Gave the benefit of the doubt, asked. No, they just needed somewhere for these chickens to be. A student needed a place for the chickens, and it was in the back of the room. Live chickens in cages, yep. Number 8. This startled me. This was on a full-size poster on a door in between the classroom and the work area where the tools are. So in between, there was this life-size poster. And do we know Tim the Toolman Taylor, Home Improvement, whatever that was? I don't know. I'm not very good at mimicking that. But literally, warning, man with big tool coming through. At the end of the day, when we were talking about this, and here's the key. This screams at us. I would imagine it, just bringing it up, you're like, wow, how could they put that up there? When it was brought to their attention, the comment back was, well, it's funny. And I was thinking, well, maybe if you're a 7th grade boy, potentially, it could be funny. But what is this telling the girls in your building? Is this welcoming them? Is this saying that space is for them? It's inappropriate on top of the fact that it's not welcoming. This is sexually charged. And obviously the kids know it. And this is just not something that, you know, and when you did bring it up, it was like, that's not appropriate. Oh, it's funny. But again, it took a fresh set of eyes to come in and say, yeah, that you might want to reconsider that. So just keeping in mind that sometimes we don't see it. So you might want to bring someone in and kind of do a walkthrough with you. True quote. So went to a school visit. They had the man cave sign at the end of the day, and this was also a situation where there was something on the walls, which is another one of our top 10 lists. But at the end of the day, when we were talking through some potential best practices, let's say, with this school, I remember the instructor turning and saying, so first what he said was, so what I'm hearing is, and we said, you know, maybe some fresh paint, maybe some motivational posters on the wall, those sorts of things. And he's like, so what I'm hearing is, you need us to girl it up. And I paused, and I said, well, if Clean and Bright is girling it up, you go for it. You know, you girl it up. And then he come back with, so if I just throw some big pink fluffy pillows around the room, we can call it good. Instructor today, in 2015, that we're dealing with this sort of background. So just keeping that in mind. We had a black walled classroom, number 6 here, but not all black. We had one accent wall that had flames. So, and again, we need professional spaces. We need clean and bright, and we want our children, we want our students to act like professionals. We need to put them in a professional space with professional acting individuals. Our number 5, the saw blade clock, next to the pinup girl poster. Because a lot of these schools are still encompassing this under a shop mentality. And not that Project Lead the Way coursework can't be in industrial technology, can't be in those areas, but it's not all about the industrial technology. And even if it were, to have, again, inappropriate female representation on the walls, that's not welcoming to all folks in your building. So you need to think about the things that you're putting up on the walls. This happened, so let me give you the scenario a little bit. We walked into a school, we went into the counseling office, of all places, and the counseling office looked like that alma mater had like thrown up everywhere. It was on his socks, it was on his watch, it was on his mouse pad, it was on his screensaver, it was on his posters, it was on his carpet. Literally everywhere that you could possibly think, there was a symbol of his university there. And what we talked about during that visit was, and his comment was, but I love my alma mater. Wonderful. But how is that, let's just say there was a rival school to that school. And we know how we feel about our universities. These go deep. These feelings of our universities that we're close to, they run deep. So if you are portraying a particular university, and an individual comes in, a young person that needs to speak to you about college, about these possibilities, you've put them in a very uncomfortable position whether you know it or not. Because you are a voice of authority, you are a model for them, and what you're saying by only portraying the one is that that's the bee's knees, that's it. And you're not as good if you don't choose this particular university. Even you don't have to say anything. You've said it, and then some. So being able to celebrate diversity, having multiple universities or other motivational words up there, you really want to think about, again, what's on your walls and how you're portraying things, because what you say speaks volumes. I went into a classroom and nothing was on the walls actually, but all the screensavers had, it was not this particular series. that was on every computer desktop, but something similar. And then behind the desk of this particular teacher, there was a huge cross. Public school. So at the end of the day, we're talking about it, and I asked, is there something about that particular series, were you doing a theme? No, they just liked that show. And I didn't even go there with the cross. But really, what you're telling folks, again, you're in a position of power with those young people. And you have to be careful what you're modeling to them. And not that anything is wrong with this particular show, not that there's anything wrong with religion. It's just that you want to be really careful, because you could be sending a message to kids that maybe they have something, non-religious, or they're a different background. You've put them again in an uncomfortable space where you're holding this up as the example, the end-all be-all. I love Pulp Fiction, but my office isn't covered with Pulp Fiction material. It might be cool, but I don't do that because I want a professional space. So just because you love them, you have to think about what is in your classroom and what does that have to do with what you're teaching. So really thinking about those particular issues. Went to one school visit, number 2 here, and we spent a couple hours talking with school administration, and we talked with some of the teachers and counselors, and then it was time for the school visit, the actual classroom visit, and talking with students. And we walked into the Introduction to Engineering Design, which is Autodesk Inventor, it's computer driven. We walked in, and this was at the end of October, and no computers were in the room. When we asked the students where the computers were, they said that they were in the other room, that they hadn't been set up yet. That might have been really great to start the day with the fact that they didn't have computers in the room, and talking about those issues. So again, be prepared, be professional, have the support and resources that these kids need to be successful. And number 1, engineering, become a train driver. So, this is not a poster that was up on the wall, but I do bring this up because I talked to a young lady in Introduction to Engineering Design, and I asked her some questions about why she was in the classroom, and she said that, and how it was going. And she said, it's going well now. And I said, please tell me more. And she said, well, for the first 2 weeks of this class, I thought, she said, I was very upset. I didn't understand why they put me into a class about driving trains. She said, I have no intention of that. And she even went home to her parent, and they didn't understand either why she was in a class about driving trains. And I bring this up, and it's sort of your number 1, because schools always think that they do a good job of explaining what these programs are and what these courses are, and even sometimes what the next one is. If you're an IED and your next step is POE for engineering, we always ask, do they know that IED is very different from POE? It's a communication thing. And the teachers are saying, oh yeah, we told them it was about VEX. Well, you go into the classroom and you start asking the kids which Project Lead the Way courses that they've taken. And then you ask, well, are you going to take this? No. I'll say, oh, well, do you know that it's very different than what you're doing right now? Well, no. So then you have to, it's about, using robotics. And then they're like, oh, that's right. That'd be something I'd be very interested in. So, and I don't disagree that those teachers are not expressing that, but it's about how you do it. It's about demonstrating it. And it's not a one-time thing that you tell these young people. Young people need told multiple times so that they understand what's going on. So little touches to be able to communicate. So really, this kind of just all wraps around good communication. And before I go on, I would just say, I would advise you, again, we've come in as those third, that set of eyes that hadn't been in that space. Kids spend way more time than teachers want to admit looking at the walls in their classrooms. So why not give them something motivational, inspirational, something to attain to, informative. So college posters, motivational posters about STEM, all of those things are super important when you're doing that. And these are all, you know, you're thinking, okay, we'll change up the classroom. Why? What value does this bring? If you start talking about parents coming in your building, you're talking about Project Lead the Way partnership teams, and those groups. Just consider your building for a second. Would you be ready for a Lockheed Martin or a Toyota to come through your door? Would you be ready for them to go down into your classroom and see the space? That could make or break partnerships with you. If there's something in your classroom that could be offensive to someone, and I don't mean the minor pieces, but if there's something in your classroom that could be offensive, why would you have it? Why would you alienate a population because you like something? If it's not relevant to what you're teaching, you might want to pull that out. And you might want to exchange it and put some things in that are inspirational. So really thinking about that, because it does affect you. Your email communication, your school website. Yeah, and we'll go on there. But again, really just thinking about what's going on in your building and how that could be portrayed and how that could hurt you or help you. So what you say does, it does matter. I would also throw in that everyone that has to do with Project Lead the Way in your building, you should really narrow down and get a 30-second speech about your program, about your kids, what you're doing in there, because you don't know. You know, it's the classic scenario. You never know who you're going to be standing next to and when. Someone says, "What do you do?" It is so super to have that quick, "This is what I do," because you never know where that conversation could lead. You could never, "That sounds awesome. Well, let me tell you what I do and how we could partner." You just never know. And if you have that down, it just comes to you and you can have those conversations and you're ready for them. So take the time to jot down those ideas. And it's something that, you know, once it's done, you can just refine it based on changing it up, changing the words, but practice it, get comfortable. I know it sounds silly, but we're talking about donors, we're talking about, you know, student opportunities for your kids. This is very important to be able to rattle off what you do and what your kids are up to. So just consider that. I'm going to run through some things about I want you to think about, and you will have this to look at later, but look at your Project Lead the Way spot on your website. Do you have a page of video clips? I heard I think it was Trinity, that talked about that they had video clips of their kids and what they're doing. It speaks, it's so powerful. Nobody really wants to hear from Project Lead the Way about me, sorry. Nobody wants to really hear it from you. They want to hear it from your students. They want to see it. So when you have those short little video clips, it doesn't have to be high quality. We take them with our cell phone now. I get great video from my cell phone. Pictures. It's something that easy where you can upload and have a page. I would, at the home page, put a Project Lead the Way link that goes to your site. And I don't mean ones that a certain teacher has a site that's buried like 7 layers deep that you have to try to find. I mean a click of the button to show the importance of your program, the priority that it has. And that's going to speak volumes. It's going to save you time, because when you are interacting with business and industry or other folks, instead of having to go on about what you do, you send them to your website. Have a look. See what our kids are doing. It's a time saver. So where in your course catalog is Project Lead the Way? Is it in industrial technology only? Is it in, what I would say is, if it is, I have a daughter in college. When she was in high school, I just would not have looked into industrial technology for a Project Lead the Way class. That's just not something I would have done. But if it was dually listed, perhaps, under science or math, or even now with so many schools bringing on so many courses, they're having several, and they have their own Project Lead the Way section in the course catalog. So that's also nice. But if you're going to have it listed, there's nothing wrong with having an industrial tech, but also dually listed. It's very important. Look at your Project Lead the Way classroom like we talked about. Who's the makeup of that? Girls, boys, underrepresented. Could they be brand ambassadors, good or bad for you? So you're thinking about who's in your class and how they can speak to the program. How are your courses scheduled? I went into one school building and all of the Project Lead the Way classes were opposite band. That's a big problem, considering that music and math and those sorts of things align so greatly. You're probably, most of your opportunity students there that would be interested in your Project Lead the Way courses are in your band. So I remember going in and saying, could you alter the schedule? They did, their numbers, they went through, because that is their population. So, you know, considering how you schedule it in the day. We talked about, is your building ready? How do you speak about STEM? I know for a fact that that the general population, they don't really understand STEM. They think they do because they see the S, the T, the E, and the M, and they say, oh, it's science, technology, engineering, math. It is, but it's that combination and what you're doing with it. And so making sure that they know about it. And some of your biggest advocates and some of your biggest people that are helping guide our students, even though the kids don't want to admit it, are your parents. So they have to know what your program is. They have to know what, what opportunities this will provide for your students so that they can help push those individuals into signing up for the classes. A couple other things to consider here. We talk about, we sometimes talk with counselors or a teacher and they feel like they're all alone in this. So, but it has to really start somewhere. So be that professional that you appreciate in others. Working at the speed of the customer. We know sometimes there's going to be emails that need to be worked with right away, and we know some that have less priority. Work at that customer speed. Being personally accountable, changing yourself, and thinking about what you need to get there. Being introspective, seeking tools, and maintaining that high road approach. And again, with personal accountability, be that ripple in the pond. And when you're talking about changing sort of the message that your building is sending out, you can start with your one room, your corner of that building, making that change. And that will perpetuate through the school, and you can be that change. So your homework, if you will, please, is to go back into your buildings. Take a look from the time you walk into that building. Is there a cabinet of sports trophies in your cabinet there for everyone to see? If there is, that's fantastic. Keep it going. But also consider putting some other things in there about maybe more sports for the mind. Maybe those acknowledgments about the kids that have been through Project Lead the Way classes, maybe some of the projects that they've had. Put those on display and celebrate not only your sports kids, but also these kids are excelling in other academic forms. Celebrate that. Look at your course catalog, look at your look at your website, and see what kind of speak you're really discussing with the world without having to say a thing. And you want it to be that this is a professional program that's providing opportunities that like no other. So you want to just make sure that you can say that as you walk through the building. Here are some resources. ChangeTheEquation.org has wonderful resources about diversity. EngineerYourLife.org, if you haven't been there. One of the key things on here is if you go to the, I think it's teachers and counselors on that EngineerYourLife.org, there's a training others section that has a really nice sort of agenda about having a Project Lead the Way night and how you might invite the parents and the students and into a night where you're celebrating the Project Lead the Way, you're demonstrating with student opportunities. You've brought in your business and industry partners and they have booths, if you will, and talking about why they support Project Lead the Way and your students. And having that opportunity to talk with the parents separately from the kids, give them some activities, talk about how these kids that are going in through and getting jobs in STEM, they may not be the ones that come back and sleep on your couch. So talking about the advantages, the career salaries that can happen with these groups, they will help guide those students. The White House has lots of innovative resources. .gov/STEM, and of course projectleadtheway.org can give you some great ideas. There's a Project Lead the Way Partnership Team guidebook that I would suggest that you go out and look at and see what roles and responsibilities and things that are happening, even sample invites for your partnership team that you might want to consider tweaking and sending out. So lots of great resources. It's just, it's something we have to do. The diversity in the deficit that it's in STEM, we have to be aggressively going after until this becomes a situation where we have all populations, but until we have that your hallways look like your classroom, or I'm sorry, your classrooms look like the hallway makeup of your school, we have to do something and we have to give attention to this. Otherwise, we're all lost. So thank you very much, and I'm not sure if there's questions at this point.
We will take questions via email, so we'll wait for those to come through.
Awesome.
I just want to be respectful of everybody's time, so I think I will put up the survey link. It's the Survey Monkey, and then I will introduce our next speaker to close us out.